Hello everyone, welcome back to Shockmania. It is I, the Arty Dance. Now I know all the other YouTube horror channels are going to talk about these two movies, Speak No Evil. The original Dutch one from 2022 and the American remake from 2024. I've seen some of the reviews that people have written about both films, and I have to say, coming at it from watching the American one first, then the Dutch one, I don't think either of the two films is that great. So, sorry if you are a fan of both of these films, but I hope you can give me a couple of minutes to just explain the reasons why I don't think either of the two films are great, and maybe even share your opinion as well. And hopefully there's some of you who may also agree with me that neither of the two films are really that great. So I watched the American one first. And first thing that really sprang out to me was the running time of almost 2 hours long. Compare that to the Dutch version of the Danish version, or the European version, let's call it. Just over an hour 30. Now this video is going to contain some spoilers. Probably should have said that at the start. So if you haven't seen either of the two films and you want to watch them before you watch this video, my recommendation is to go do that and then come back and join this discussion. But I did watch the American one first, and I feel like the American one is just a mirrored reflection of society that's just boring in horror cinema. The father and mother character are just awful, are just truly awful, and there's no connection to either of those two characters. The father is exceptionally weak. The woman is exceptionally, what's the word I'm looking for? Obnoxious, especially that whole vegetarian thing. The child is just annoying. Like there's no connection. Like I've said, that no connection with either of the characters. In fact, James McAvoy as Paddy, brilliant. One of my most favorite parts of the whole film was just watching his performance, and he did an outstanding job. In fact, he made me want to watch the film until the end, because otherwise, there are so many times in that movie where you're just saying to yourself, why do you keep making bad decisions? And that's what throws me out of movies, when the main characters just keep making these decisions that defy any logic. You've made it out of the house, right? It's okay, it's in the middle of the night, you've made it out of the house, you're driving down the road in your stupid little Tesla, which I'm surprised still has battery. Why are you going back for? What, over a stupid little toy? Like, at what point do you become a parent and start parenting the child and say, we'll get you another toy. You're too old for the toy. We can't go back there now. That toy now belongs to, what's his name? The little boy in the film. I can't remember what they called him in the film. Just leave it at that. Continue driving. You're survived. You're on your way back. Now, then you've had multiple opportunities throughout the movie to get out of the scenario, and you don't do it. And so thus, when the main characters keep repeatedly making bad decisions, there's no connection. You just want them to die, right? Now, my biggest grievance in the movie, and I apologize if I missed something, because at this point of the film, I was rather annoyed with what was going on. But once the mother has incapacitated Paddy in the bathroom, and the wife is coming in to look after Paddy, and then the father finally matches up with the mother and has the two children. Why? Why are you breaking the rule of Scream by going up the stairs and out through the attic and then down a ladder instead of going out the front door? Because as you see later on, 5 minutes later, Paddy walks out the front door. He's incapacitated in the bathroom. The woman is looking out for him. The other guy that's stalking you is dead because you've killed him already. There is no danger for you. Run out of the house. Run out to safety. You're done. When the gate closes, just ram the gate. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're watching him drown the boy, but just ram the gate. Make sure the gate's open first, then go back and get the kid. There's just so many ridiculously dumb things that happen in the film that by the end of the 1 hour 55 minutes, You just sit there and go, that was a waste. I hated it, every second of it, except for James McAvoy's performance. So then we flipped over and watched the European version last night. So I watched them back to back. And whether I watched them in the wrong order, that's debatable. Perhaps I should have watched the original first. But you get some differences and some similarities. So the similarities are the same in how they meet. You know, the scenario of going to the house for the weekend. You know, the forcing eating of the meat, the visiting of that roadhouse or restaurant, isolated restaurant where the only customers there, the dance sequence where Patrick flips out. But there are also then a lot of differences. So in the American version, the little boy keeps flagging to the girl something that's going on, and then he shows her the trophy room in the barn. Whereas in the European version, the father finds the trophy room, which I think is a far more realistic scenario. And in fact, one of the things that I read about the European version of the film is it said it was far more realistic. And if you've seen the European version, you'll know that the ending is certainly far more realistic. Because even though the Americans try to give you these happy ending, everyone walks away, bright and sunny kind of endings, it makes no sense. Because of all of the families that they've killed, these would look to be the most pathetic. And there's no way that they would be able to kill 3 people and make it out to safety. Just no way, right? And I get it, the American superhero complex, okay, fine. But it just didn't suit what the film was going for. What the European version does right is the music and the audio. So many uncomfortable music tracks used, and so many scenes of audible, as in, sorry, what I'm trying to say is here, the scenes where the characters are speaking but you don't hear it, but it's the music playing over the top that makes the film feel very uncomfortable. And that's what I really liked about the European version. In fact, that's the only bit that I liked about the European version. I don't think that Patrick, the father, was as good as the American version. I think James McAvoy knocked that performance out of the park. It is spectacular in that performance. I don't quite think that the European version is the same with it. But there are some issues that I have with both films. And I suppose a lot of it leaves the audience asking questions, which can be a good thing. But there's no real... And the American version tried to do this, give a bit of backstory about why they did it. So whether she was telling the truth or not, in the American version, she did say they had a child that was stillborn. And so thus, you know, well, that was it. That was why she was nursing the little girl when the little girl was in the bed. But there's no real backstory about why they do it. At least, again, watching both versions back to back, I couldn't pick it up. Also, the bit that I was really wondering was why they were replacing the kids. And you can see from the photo albums that they'd done it, more than a dozen times. But there was no indication about how often they did it. Was it every month? Was it every couple of weeks? You know, was it once a year? And there was no indication why they were doing it. Now, there is a reference, I believe, in the European version where they talk about meeting them a few months ago on holiday and then get the invitation later. So we know that the boy has survived quite a few months before the incident occurs. But again, you know, having a tiny bit of backstory about some motivation might have changed the overall feeling of the movie. So perhaps if that's what they were going for, that's fine. Also, I had a bit of a debate with the person that I watched it with in the European version. We were trying to figure out whether the little boy killed himself by diving in the bathtub and drowning himself, or the spa, or whether the father had done it. So in the American version, we can clearly see the father trying to kill the boy by throwing him into the lake. But in the European version, I don't quite think we see that. We see the father outside smoking Paddy outside smoking as the father turns off the television for being too loud. But we don't see if the boy decides to kill himself, knowing the torment that he's in and knowing he's about to be replaced, or whether It's Paddy doing that, Patrick doing that to preempt it. And I do like the fact that they've kept similar names. Patrick, Paddy, Louise is in both, Agnes is in both. We've got Kiara versus Karen, and Ben and Bjorn. So they kept the similar names, and even the mute kid whose name I can't remember. Ant in the American version versus what's he called in the European version? Short-term memory on this one, cannot remember. So I think I don't like either of the two movies. I mean, that's just plain and simple. I don't think that they're worth going out of your way to watch. And I'm reading a lot of real hyperbole on IMDb about this American remake. A lot of 9s out of 10s, a lot of 8s out of 10s, and a few 10 out of 10s, who can only really qualify the fact that James McAvoy's performance was great, but completely ignoring how stupid the two parents were and them repeatedly putting themselves into the same scenarios that they could have gotten themselves out of. Now, yes, if they'd have gotten themselves out of it, we wouldn't have had a movie. I totally get that. But I think then there's a way to write incompetence in a script without making it so blatantly obvious. And it did frustrate me in the European version that the kid just picks up the toy because she had it by her feet. I mean, how bad are the two parents who've literally pulled the whole car apart and not been able to find a toy that was just sitting on the floor? That drove me nuts. So, my recommendation, if you have to watch either of the two movies, is to probably go with the European original, only because the ending feels better. The ending feels like something that would happen in that scenario. The American version just feels far too happy-go-lucky. Everything just kind of works out in the end. But regardless of what version you watch, I think it's clear that Paddy Patrick is probably the best character in both films, and the James McAvoy's performance is outstanding. The Dutch version, or the European version, has far better music. And not music as in the pop music that's used. Music as in the ambience and the scene-setting music that it's used. It is a creepier film overall. It's just not a fabulous film, and probably not worthy of a remake that changed the ending so much. It's essentially a 180 ending. I hope I haven't spoiled that too much for you, but if you have seen the film, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I would be keen to know what you think out there, because I do value what you think. A lot of the times I'm a bit different with the mainstream opinions on what films are, and I think I am probably different on this one because it does seem to feel that everyone likes this movie when I don't feel like it deserves all the love that it gets. But as always, I would be very curious to know what you think. I am the Artie Dance, and you are watching Shockmania. Thank you for listening to this unsolicited rant. I appreciate it. If you like the content on the channel, lots of kill count stuff, lots of previews of new movies that a lot of other channels don't look at, please feel free to subscribe. I appreciate it any other way. I love it when you guys drop a comment, because I love reading them and love talking to you about them. I've got quite a few regular commenters here, and I love everything that you guys do. I appreciate everything. So I will, hopefully, catch you next time.